Hello and welcome to another episode of 10 Things You Didn't Know. My name is Chad Cruz from the Bulletproof Podcast and BulletproofAction.com, and I am here to tell you 10 things you did not know about Predator 2. Number 1. Maria Conchita Alonso shadowed a female detective in preparation for a role. The detective's job was to investigate murders involving black magic. She told Maria some wild stories about finding rooms full of bodies in plastic bags that were for sale. That's some weird shit. Number 2. Arnold's character Dutch from the original Predator was originally written into the sequel, but Arnold's schedule didn't allow him to do the film. He had to decide whether to do this film or to do Terminator 2. The movie mentioned that Dutch disappeared several weeks after the events of the first movie. In fact, the federal agent Keyes, played by Gary Busey, was supposedly the man who had set up the CIA operation that we see in the first movie. Number 3. Predator 2 was the first movie to show a bunch of video screens in the film. If you remember, Aliens had a couple of scenes where they did something similar, but Predator 2 went real crazy with it. Showing video screens like that back in the day was an absolute headache, because filmmakers had to get everything synced up perfectly, and nothing could be done digitally like they could today. Number 4. Filming in the city was downright crazy. People who lived in the nearby buildings would throw bottles of piss and bags of shit at the crew. There were also rats big enough that some of the grips working on the film reportedly put leashes on them and walked them around during the day. As they were cleaning out one of the alleys for a shot, they'd actually discovered a dead body. Number 5. Gary Busey utters the line, "Guess who's back?" It was either a play on Arnie's line, "I'll be back," or because this was his first movie back after his almost deadly motorcycle accident. Busey's accident actually caused him to be legally dead for a short time before he was brought back to life. It meant that Gary had all sorts of stories about his experiences that he shared on set with other actors. It also gave him a little different experience to draw from for his role as Keyes. Number 6. The writing on the pistol that gets tossed to Danny Glover's character at the end of the film is related to a character from the Predator comic books. The character was a pirate that went up against a predator and fought bravely. Number 7. Over 20 cuts had to be made to the film for it to finally get an R rating. There was no way that the studio would release the film with its original NC-17 rating. Number 8. If you rewatch them, the Joel Silver movies during this era always tended to spill over into a random person's home. It was kind of his way of showing the difference between the worlds of the main characters of the story and the normal people just living their lives in the same area. Number 9. They used a one-armed stuntman in a rig called a descender for the Predator fall after his arm is chopped off by Danny Glover. The scene was shot 13 stories up in the air, and the actor had one shot to get it down. The weapon that was used to sever his arm at the wrist was one that was new to this series as well. Director Stephen Hopkins brought a greater level of weaponry to the City Hunter Predator than the simpler weapons of the Jungle Hunter Predator from the first film. They had already worked out some of the kinks from the first movie and made most of the weapons as separate pieces that could be attached and not the solid molds that they had used in the earlier film. Number 10. Danny Glover was a big LA Lakers fan, so they got a couple of the players to portray the Predators at the end of the movie. They were tall, lean, and athletic, so they were perfect for the roles. Each of the Predators were a bit different from one another because a team of creators worked on them to be such. The old gray-haired Predator reused much of the same prosthetics from the first movie and was played by veteran Kevin Peter Hall.